Yo, what is up? Okay, so we are doing some meal prep right now. Today is Saturday, August 21. It is currently 3:38 p.m. We are doing some meal prep for the next couple of days. Something I wanted to talk about here is the fact that I thought that this was a waste of time, right? Where when I left to go onto this entrepreneurship journey, and I started having to meal prep, I got this feeling of like not wanting to do it, and it's a complete waste of time. Same thing with like cleaning my apartment and doing laundry and just like these menial tasks that don't really seem to be that important. They don't make me money, right? And so it was like, oh, this is all a waste of time. So I didn't really meal prep for the first couple of days. And then what I found was, number one, I was actually not... Well, what I found was I wasn't really sticking to my meal prep because none of the food was prepared. And so I also saw a video from Greg LaVecchia of him talking about this, and it just reminded me, right, of him like working out. And I saw it was him talking about like prepping his food and how he eats in his diet and everything. And so it reminded me of his quote that he has, which is my new favorite quote of all time, or at least so far, which is that spend as much time building the man as you do chasing the goals. Or spend as much time building the man who's capable of handling your goals as you do chasing them, right? Something along those lines. And for me, that was a big deal because it made me think of, okay, not just the money, but what kind of man do I want to be? What kind of person? Well, I want to be a guy who's in shape. Like the whole fucking point is I want to look like Greg LaVecchia, bro. I want to have fucking abs. I want to be shredded. I want to be in great shape. And so what I realize is that guy who's in great shape pays attention to his food, right? He does meal prep. And so, number one, doing the meal prep gets me closer to my goals and actually gets me closer to the man that I want to be. It's not a waste of time because the man that I want to be is in shape. And doing this only makes me closer to being in shape, not further away from it, right? So it doesn't detract from it. And it made me like kind of separate my monetary goals from the goals of who do I want to be as a human, right? Because again, the money is one thing, but it's also how do I want to get there? Who do I want to be when I'm there? It's about the person, not the money, right? And so it's like the money's going to come, but I want to be in shape. I don't want to be the guy that makes a lot of money and is fat. And so spending time in the gym, right? Let's say doing some more cardio, because I had this thought also when I started spending some more time in the gym. I had a similar thought along the same lines where it's like spending some extra time in the gym, spending time meal prepping my food, or sitting and just consciously eating so I can pay attention to it and fix my brain's association with food, even if it takes longer, and doing all of these things that seemingly is wasting time. It's actually not wasting time because it gets me closer to my goals, right? It gets me closer to fitness, which is part of my goals, is to be in shape. And so just realizing that was kind of like an epiphany for me sorry, I'm looking for a pen right now to write down my measurements. But just like, it's not just about the money, right? The guy that I want to be is also in shape. And so doing all these things, taking this time is not detracting from my goals. It's actually adding to it, right? Because it's getting me closer to my goals. It's getting me to be more in shape. I'll just take this and I'll use it, or I'll use one of those markers. It's getting me closer to my goals, right? Because part of my goals is to get in good shape. And so it's about building the man, not just chasing the money, right? And so that was a big deal for me, kind of a realization. And so I'm meal prepping, and what's cool about that is I saw a video today on his Instagram from Greg Lav. Guess what he was doing? He was meal prepping. Right now, he probably doesn't spend so much time doing it, but he spends a decent amount of time, right? And he cares about it, and he orders rotisserie chickens to his office. I can't do those things, or I guess I'm choosing not to do those things, because for right now, for the time being, I still keep kosher. I grew up Jewish. Part of that is you can only eat certain kinds of meat, and it has to be prepared a certain way, all the way back to even how the animal is killed. And so it's very expensive, literally double the price. It's about $8.99 a pound, $7.99 a pound, and that's like if it's cheap. So a lot. But my point is, so my point is I can't just like go to any store and order a random rotisserie chicken. It has to be like special. So I do it on my own. But going back to it, is my point is like if Greg Lav is taking the time to do that, then I can take the time to do that, right? And again, damn, this pit's hard. And again, it goes back to not just the money, but like, what kind of person do I want to be, right? Because that's why I went off on this journey. That's why I'm really starting the business, or why I quit my job, I should say. It wasn't because, oh, I wanted to make money. Yes, obviously that's a massive fucking factor, and I do want to make a shit ton of money. I'm going to become ridiculously wealthy. So much money, I don't even fucking know what to do with it. But that being said, I also want to be in shape, right? And that requires attention and time and energy and focus, right? And that being said, the money's going to fucking happen anyway. The question is, when I do get it, am I going to be in shape or not, right? And so, to keep this long story short, all I'm really trying to say is, look, spending time on my fitness and my health, and that includes meal prepping, working out, supplements. Honestly, even I'm willing to say, even the little stuff of like watching some fitness videos or edits on Instagram to motivate me to want to keep going to the gym or to get more shredded or stay closer to my goals. All that little stuff, it actually adds up because it gets me closer to my long-term goal, which is part of being in shape, right? And so, to get to the point, all I'm really trying to say is that it was a cool epiphany for me, was realizing not just what's the stuff that I want, but what man do I want to be, right? And what are the other things outside of money that I also want in my life? And one of those is to be in great fucking shape, right? It's like, if you ask me right now, would I rather be Elon Musk, who, not a very attractive guy, right? Not in very good shape, but is worth $1 trillion, or would I rather be Greg LaVecchia, who's worth a couple $100 million and is fucking jacked? I'd take Greg LaVecchia every single fucking day of the week, right? And it's because of the life that he lives, not just the money that he has. And so, and obviously that's one of the lessons and the big epiphanies that I had working at the Elliott Group, right? Was it's not just about the money, it's not about the stuff, it's about what they do with their time, right? What do I want to do with my time, and just who I am as a person. And what that means is all the stuff outside of money. So like, where do I live? What kind of house do I have? How much time do I spend with my friends? Where do I vacation? What kind of shape am I in? How much time do I spend in the gym, etc. Right? So, again, that was just another thing. So, anyway, that's kind of why I'm like meal prepping now, and why I've justified it in my head. And this is just me sharing my thoughts, my opinion, what goes on in my head. So, if you don't agree, cool, do your own thing. This is just me documenting kind of my journey and just some thoughts that go into my head. But that was kind of the justifications that I had for it, which is like, number one, if Greg Live is taking the time to do it, I can take time to do it. But also, the point of me going into this 6-month monk mode wasn't just to make money and build the business. It was also to fix my habits and to fix who I am as a human, right? And part of that is my fitness, and it is my health, is how I eat, it's what I choose to eat, etc. And so spending time on that isn't detracting from my goals, isn't taking away from my goals. It's part of my goals. It's part of adding to my goals, right? And again, all of that goes back to the quote from Greg of, spend just as much time becoming the man capable of handling your goals as you do actually chasing them, right? And my goals is to have a $100 million company minimum by the time I'm 35 years old. Really, it's to be worth $6 billion by the time I'm 35 years old. And that's the year 2040. But I won't be too pissed off with $100 million. But again, it's spend just as much time building the man capable of handling that as I do building that. And so for me, the man handling that, and also just the life that I want to live, is a guy that's in shape. It's like, if you ask me, would I rather be a billionaire who's not in shape or looks the way that I look now, or would I rather be worth 500 million or 200 million and be in great fucking shape, be like Greg LaVecchia shape? I'd rather that. I'd rather Greg LaVecchia shape with the couple $100 million as opposed to $1 billion. So, and that used to not be the case. Nothing used to matter to me more than money, right? But things change over time, and so I realized that being in shape is more important to me than that. So, long story short, this is why I'm spending time meal prepping and putting an effort into cooking and doing all this stuff, because it's actually more worth it to me in the end, long term. So, anyway, that's why I'm spending time doing the meal prep. So if you're wondering what we're just prepping, we got some nectarines and strawberries. Of course, I got this idea from Greg LaVecchia. So nectarines, strawberries, we got the chicken in the oven. That's going to be this meal with some avocados. Avocados, of course, I don't really cut up until I'm about to eat them or until the morning of, because otherwise they get spoiled. So these are this meals right here. And then dinner is going to be something very similar. It's usually probably another nectarine or just some other form of carbs, maybe like an orange or something like that. It's just some other type of fruit, right? It's chicken and then other types of fruits, whether that's an apple, whether that's grapes. It's kind of like how I'm feeling, especially at nighttime, and it's kind of like what I have room left for, right? If I only have 20 grams of carbs left, it's gonna be very different than if I have 50 grams of carbs left. So usually at night I'll play it by ear. Maybe I'll have banana, maybe I'll have a slice of bread, or maybe I'll have an orange, stuff like that. So for now, I'm just gonna prepare the chicken for nighttime. Just measure out the 200 grams as well as in here, but obviously the chicken is cooking, so that's gonna be it for the measuring of the fruit for right now. The only other thing that I have to do is cut up the watermelon and then measure 500 gram containers at a time. So that's what we're gonna do. And I will continue talking on that one. And that will be a little bit of a different topic. So I'll actually go into it right off of the bat from here because I don't really care. I'll just make this a long video. But so one of the things that I've been wanting to practice was I noticed my speaking got a lot worse over time. Much, much worse. And there was a point where I was practicing my communication skills almost every single day. And now that's not the case. And I know that my speaking has gotten much worse. And I found myself saying a lot of the time, even in this video. And so for the next 10 minutes, while I cut up this massive watermelon and then measure it out, I'm going to practice speaking. I don't know what about. I don't know what I'm going to say. All I do know is I'm going to talk slow. I'm going to be clear. And I'm going to stop saying fucking because that's not how you communicate. So this knife is dull. I need a new one. Damn. But I realized I was saying a lot of and it's stopping my communication. So Ving Gang, I followed him back when he was a magician. Now he's a fucking public figurehead about communication and speaking. I followed him when he was just a magician. Bought his course on Black Friday in like 2017 for $299. Now it's like $1,000 or whatever, and he does it for corporate companies. But so I have access to Sage Academy for life, which is fucking sick. Best Black Friday purchase I ever got. So I'm gonna go through some of the concepts that he talks about in his program, which again I'm failing even right now. So here we go. So a couple things that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a topic. I'm going to talk for probably about 5 minutes, and things I'm going to pay attention to is pausing, not saying the word being comfortable in the silence, and being cohesive with my sentences. All right, this is what I noticed when I did his 5-minute practice, which is basically you take your phone, you put it down, or you record yourself rather for 5 minutes, and then you listen back to it with just the sound. So you put the phone down and you just listen, and you take notes on how you're speaking, on how you sound, the punctuation, the pauses, the ums, the ahs, ands, filler words, etc. And then you do that again, but this time just with how you look. And so you mute the phone, and then you just watch your body language, and you do the same and you take notes. And then there's a third part of it, which is like you can transcript the video and then highlight all the filler words and the extra words of the uhs, ahs, ands, buts, etc., and then kind of highlight those and get rid of them. But even the first two changed my life. And so what I noticed when I did the first two, one of the things that I noticed about myself was I tend to jump from one thought to another without finishing the first one, right? And so it's like I'll start a sentence, and then it'll lead me to like get another thought, and then I'll stop the sentence and like go to that next thought without actually finishing the first thought that I had. So those are the couple things that I'm going to practice right now. So again, number 1 is pausing. Number 2 is saying the word Number 3 is finishing a thought before I start another one. So the topic that I'm going to speak about is I don't even know. What should I speak about? I'll just speak about whatever's on my mind. I guess starting a company. Yeah. I'll talk about some of the scary stuff that I have to deal with, or that I go through, right? So this morning, I saw a video on Ed Milet's page. If you don't know who Ed Milet is, he's an entrepreneur, a mentor of mine that I listen to, that I look up to, that I watch all the time. And he made a video on his YouTube, a YouTube short, of him describing what the day-to-day actually looks like as an entrepreneur. And he's very, very wealthy. He started, I think, a company called WFG, which is a financial company. I'm not sure what they do. I'm not sure if that's the name. I'm not sure if he started that company. But he's a very wealthy guy. And so he made a video of him describing just his one day of things that happened that day. And the point was to display that that's what entrepreneurship really looks like. It's not the highlight reels that you see on Instagram. It's not people flashing this fancy lifestyle. It's the brutal aspects of it. And so he went on to describe how he woke up that morning to a text that a deal that he was working for 6 months didn't close and is not going to close. And then he found out, I forget what the next thing was. He then found out that at one of the construction sites that they're doing, one of their real estate projects, there was a flood that burst and it ruined a lot of construction that they were doing. And on top of all this, he was sick with an infection because one of his top guys, who was now out for the day, gave it to him. And his assistant was on vacation while all this was happening. And there was one or two other things that were wrong. And so his point was, entrepreneurship is solving problems. It's not all the glory, fancy highlights that you see on social media. It's not driving Lamborghinis on a beach in Malibu. It's solving problems on a day-to-day, and it's things going wrong and you having to fix it. But when I saw that video, number one, I knew what that felt like because I had the same thing when I started my company, obviously in a different category on a different level, but I had problems as well. Where I started the company, but I had to find a videographer. I didn't have one. Then I had to find an editor, and then I hired an editor, and then he quit on me. And then I had to actually hire a real editor and pay for him, which I did. And then I woke up the next day expecting the videos to be ready and realized that he was on the same hours as American time, even though he lived in Pakistan. And so he didn't edit any of the videos. And then I had to look for another editor, and I hired that guy, but I couldn't fire the first one because I still needed the videos, and he started working on them. And so these were also problems that I was dealing with. Okay, so I'm going to stop saying "and so" because I realize I'm saying that a lot. And I actually loved that. It's that feeling of chaos and solving problems that I wanted. That's the reason I wanted to start a business. Honestly, I didn't even want to start a company for the Lambo and the flashiness and all of that stuff. Yes, I do want that, of course. But it was just the feeling of using my brain to solve problems. Because in my last job as a high-ticket sales guy, I'm going to drink some of this. One of the things about my last job in high-ticket sales is the fact that I was never solving problems. And one of my greatest strengths, and I would argue one of my gifts, is the fact that I overthink everything. I am a massive overanalyzer, overthinker, etc. And in high-ticket sales, the process is so repetitive, and you just repeat it, and you repeat it, and it's simple. There's no thinking. There's no solving problems. And so I couldn't use my powers. I couldn't use my brain. I call it powers, but I couldn't use my brain the way that I wanted to. And now, even though there are problems, that was my whole goal, was to get into something where I can just focus on solving problems. And that's what I now do. I love entrepreneurship because of that. To me, it's a blessing to be able to solve these problems because it gives me something to put my brain towards. A lot of the sales guys that were my coworkers in my last job, their stories was how they were always the dumb kid. And they were the kid that can never sit straight in school. They never got good grades. You know, they were on the streets doing dumb shit. I was never that guy, ever. I was the kid, I did get good grades in school. I never did stupid stuff. I always wanted to be something big with my life. I always had big dreams. I never wanted to do something small. I was never in jail. I never did stupid shit. And so I don't have one of these comeback kid stories that some of my coworkers did, because I always knew that I wanted a better life for myself. I always knew that I wanted something different. These guys didn't. And so for me, entrepreneurship is the ultimate game, because I get to take the thing that I'm the absolute best at with the least amount of effort which is overthinking and analyzing everything, and I actually get to apply it towards something. And not only towards something, I get to apply it towards something that gets me a return from it. And not just any return, it makes me money. And that's the coolest thing in the world. And that's why I'm actually obsessed with entrepreneurship, and why the goal for me was to just start a business, because I need to solve problems. I need to put my brain to use. And so I'm actually obsessed with the game of business. It's why I love business so much, is because the whole fucking thing about business is just discussing how to solve problems, bro. And that's the thing that I'm best at. And I'm not talking about like solving math word problems, but actual problems. It's like, hey, we have this amount of money, we need to get this amount. How do we do that? Or this is not working the way that we need to. It's only at this percentage. We need it at that percentage. What can we rearrange within the product to get it to there? That's the shit that I love, dude. Sorry, I'm just doing the watermelon. And so that's why I'm obsessed with this game of entrepreneurship, because it's not about the money or the highlights or any of that stuff for me. And forgive me for being a pig. But it's about the game, solving the problems, figuring it out, the solutions. That's why I'm in the game, bro. That's why I'm doing this. It's because I want to play the game. I want to solve the problems, bro. I want to figure this shit out. It's not about the money for me. It was at first, and yes, obviously that's a factor. I'm not saying I would do this shit without money. I would, which is important. But yeah, I want the fucking money. I made it in an earlier video when I was talking about validation and I didn't have any of that. Yeah, I want the fucking money. I want to be able to go wherever I want, whenever I want. I want to be the guy that walks out of a fucking yellow convertible Lamborghini in a 3-piece fucking suit with a $300,000 watch on, and people look at me saying, what the fuck? Yeah, I want to be that guy. But I also love the game, and it's also, how do I want to spend my time? And I made a post about this a while back, where when I worked at the Elliott Group in high ticket sales, one of the things that I'm really grateful for is I was around successful people in all different aspects, meaning there were people that made a lot of money in different ways. And what I realized was I had coworkers that were on the sales teams that were millionaires, all right? And they would drive a Lamborghini to work every single day. But I hated the day-to-day. What they were doing on the day-to-day was the same thing as me, and I fucking hated it. I was miserable. And it got to the point where one day I asked myself, and I said, if I were to have $20 million in the bank right now and a Lamborghini, but I'd have to drive the Lamborghini to do this every single day, how would I feel? And I realized I would still be fucking miserable. And that's when it became clear to me that entrepreneurship, at least for me, is not about the stuff. It's not about the things. It was at one point, but this was the flexion point where that changed. Where it's not about the things anymore. It's about how do I want to spend my days. Period. Because I'm going to die. We're all going to fucking die. And so the money's going to come. The money's going to come either way. The question is, how do I want to get there? Because what I've come to notice is there's a million ways of getting there. And I learned this from being around successful people. Again, I met people that were running $100 million companies in the roofing space, in the plumbing space, as a floor guy, as a window guy, in the coaching space, all different kinds of businesses. And they were making a lot of money, but they all got there a different way. And they all, again, were normal humans. They all went to the gym like we did. They all had to work out. They all had a wife. They all had kids. They all wanted to spend time with their family. They all had to eat food every day. Some of them actually meal prep their own food. And so they were just like us. And that's when I realized it's not about the stuff, because the stuff is going to happen. I'm going to get the stuff. There's no longer a doubt. There's no longer a lack of belief. That is gone. I fully, wholeheartedly believe and have faith that I'm going to accomplish everything that I want. I'm going to be a fucking billionaire. And honestly, I kind of changed my goals. I don't even really necessarily want to be a billionaire anymore. minimum 100 million. Anything above that is a bonus. It has to be a fucking 100 million, right? And one thing that got me to that conclusion, I was at Andy's house one night, and Rafa was there. This guy named Rafa, who has a fitness coaching company. He's got a couple 100,000 followers on social media. And he was talking about how he knows a couple of billionaires because he lives in Dubai. And he was having a conversation with a billionaire one night. And this guy's worth 2, 3, I think maybe even $5 billion. And the billionaire was telling Rafa, he said, honestly, you don't want my life. My life is miserable. He said, I spend 12 hours at the office every single day. I get maybe a couple of hours on Friday night. Or I think he said, or like Saturday, I spend the day on my boat. Like just decompressing. And then Sunday, I spend the first morning with my family. And then I spend the second half of the day preparing for Monday. And then Monday, it's back to 14, 18-hour days in the office every single day. And that's his life. And just hearing that made me realize, like, wow, maybe I don't want to be a billionaire. And that is what it takes to be a billionaire. It's like I look at Musk and I look at all these other guys, all they do is work. And for me, I don't want to just do that. I want to be able to do that and fucking grind my ass off and work and earn this shit. But then I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. You know, and that's changed over time. And so for me, that's what it's about. And so I don't even necessarily want to be a billionaire anymore. It's just 100 million minimum because I do want to build something big. But anyway, these are some thoughts. So that's the end of that practicing. I didn't say the word see, now I do because I'm off. It's like, it's weird. It's like, excuse me, it's like a switch that flips in my brain of when I'm talking. When I'm performing or like talking and practicing actual being good at communication, I'm much more conscious of what's coming out of my mouth. And so yeah, I have a lot of like pauses and non-filler words. I make more sense, I come out more clear, but it's me being conscious of it. It's putting on a show, it's performing, all right, as opposed to just saying what's on my mind and just yapping, right? So I'm gonna check on the chicken now because the timer is just about done. There's 15 seconds left, so I'm gonna pause this, check on the chicken, see where we're at. Let's open this up. Oof, oven's hot. Okay, yeah, probably needs about 15-20 more minutes. So we're gonna put this down. We're done prepping and measuring that. So we're gonna wait for the chicken and then we'll do that and then we should be good. So that was good. All in took about an hour to meal prep, not that much. We're gonna set this back for 20 minutes. I'm gonna set a 20-minute timer on my phone as well. Let's put it at 15. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace, rock.